Well, hello everybody. Welcome to episode 2 of When Ops Meets Dev. With us, as always, is Robbie and Swami. Hope everybody's doing well, guys. How are you two both doing?
Oh, very good.
Doing good. How are you doing, John?
Yeah, all good, all good. The sun is shining in the UK today, so I think we're all feeling a little bit happier today. You know, there's no gloomy weather, so it's all good. So, I mean, guys, we hit off a cracking episode 2 weeks ago now. The first episode where, I don't know if we want to recap that, what we got up to in that episode, but we've got equally, some great stuff to get through on this episode as well. So, I mean, on that note, should we jump straight on in and do a little bit of a recap of the first episode, just to bring people up to speed and talk about what we're going to go through this episode.
Robbie?
Yeah, that wasn't what we discussed.
Okay. So I'm flashing my screen here. I'm flashing my screen. So, guys, this is the Git repository where we'll have a series of repos. Like each individual microservice will have its own repo. And this is a proposed big picture, what we wanted to achieve step by step. And we started with this products microservice. We have .NET 6 with Mongo as a backend.
And just to interject really quickly, that's going to be the focus at first, is just setting up and scaling out that microservice across the architecture, and then we'll be able to plug in and connect to other microservices as we go.
Exactly. So while we are discussing on this one, we are behind the scenes, we are building the API gateway, the admin apps, and a few other moving pieces will come. And we will put we keep it as a proposed architecture, and the architecture, how we are building step by step, we will put it here. So what did we do in the previous episode? Let me do it real quick recap. Is that we started discussing what is Docker Desktop, and we discussed about MongoDB, the considerations, why did we choose Mongo, and some of the features of this API-led architecture, strongly typed configuration, the Swagger, when do we use app settings versus secrets JSON, and how do we use it, example.app settings, and then what is repository pattern, and we had a in-depth deep dive demo into dependency injection. Then we discussed about the Docker file, and we executed this application on Windows 10 using IIS,
Mhm.
Kestrel, Docker, and Docker Compose. That we call it episode 1. Now coming to episode 2 is we will discuss about the Serilog. We will keep this configuring the configuration to episode 3. And one of the other point which we wanted to discuss on the Docker commands, that's also we are parking it to episode 3. In episode 2, we will discuss on the Serilogs, the third-party logger. How do you plug in this? And the Postman collection and showcasing the test cases. We also started working on the test case. Like we are doing the end-to-end solution development, and each microservice is also we are doing end-to-end. Like you design, you architect, and you code unit test and performance testing and all scripting, CI/CDs, everything will be there. So slowly we'll do it, but we will take time. We'll do a deep dives into that, and we do the Serilog and we do the Postman collection, and we'll show that why do you need Postman collection, what is the advantage. Then
Mhm.
in the previous episode, we our main focus was on Windows. Now this time, Robbie will be showcasing how can we work on the solution if you are working on Mac OS, and then we will show how we will. What if someone asks for me, what if I have Ubuntu and VS Code? I don't have VS 2022. No, you have been covered. So we have created some of the tooling, scripting and tools and other things for you guys to grab this and go and play around. That means like Windows or Mac OS and Ubuntu, like .NET everywhere. So drum rolls for that, and again we'll come back to the secrets.json, and then we have written a lot of shell scripts where you don't need to go and open the Azure portal. You execute the shell scripts, and it pushes the API to Docker Hub registry here. We'll see that how it happens, everything, and then we'll deploy, taking this Docker image from the Docker Hub and deploying it to Azure single container instance, and then we will access that from this ACI, and then we'll use scripts to create the Azure container registry, and then we'll push this image. We'll push this image to Azure Container Registry, and again deploy the single container user using Azure Container Registry. So that way, what is happening is you are having you are having two different things, like you same Azure container instance. One, it is picking up the image from the Docker. Another, it is picking up the image from the Azure Container Registry, and then we'll
Mm.
come back and use Postman, having multiple environments. You can either verify the local or verify the ACI. Back to you, Robbie.
All
Right.
right. So, yeah, I was
I
going to
was.
say, I think we were going to start session 2 once we got into it by looking at the Siri log, which is just a way to process and handle your logs and store them. Like I guess it would store them to a file normally, right?
Yep, yep. It's source to the file. So let's get this kickstart. So we have the direction. We can mark what is that which we already covered. So I'll say that this has been done. So we'll start with this. So generally, how do you configure this Serilog, and why do you need to configure the Serilog? So coming back to that, I will come in here, and for the time being, I will comment all of these for a moment. Okay. So
Mhm.
I execute this products API, and what options do we have when you are testing locally, or you can put it into app service or different, in Docker containers or anywhere you want to put it. You can go ahead and put it, this one.
So now
And
any logging would probably occur directly on the system out and system error file handles, I would assume.
exactly. So the one you are seeing here, when I go and hit this, any of this endpoints, and any of the endpoint, and that you can see that it is spitting out all the logs over here. And another thing is I can go to the output window, and here is a debug logs. So at two different places it is spitting these containers. it's good. There is no harm in doing this one. The problem comes when you are investigating something at 10 a.m. this morning. Someone tried to purchase something from the shop, and they received an exception. And some of the logs which we will not throw outside, we don't spit it outside to the UI. We'll write or we'll give a GUID. And if you want to investigate, we can't go into that log console log and see that where it is. Most probably it will be in application insights, but at least if you write the serial log, it will be stored. So we'll see that. The configuration, where do you go and configure this? So if you come and see this, this is the default logging. Whatever you guys we saw just now is coming from here.
Mhm.
And Serilog is again the minimum log level. Whatever we want to override, we can override this. And using this Serilog sync file, write to file, we wanted to show one small variation. Is that if someone is more of a code guy, they can come in here and they can write this piece. Like that's what we wanted to show. So write to debug and write to console, that's what two places we will see that, write to debug and write to console. And also you can do similar thing. It's an array. Write to is an array of structure. So this object says that, okay, write to file, what should be the file name, and rolling interval. Some of the long ago we used to use this kind of logging, where we used to keep MB size. Once it is 10 MB or 4 MB, roll it to the next file. But here we are telling that roll it in a day, not by size. So that's a different thing.
So
We'll see.
it'll keep a daily log, like it's a log rotation indicator, I guess.
Exactly. So we'll see that how it will be creating this log rotations here. Here you can come in and see this inside the source. The path, whatever we have given, you will have this logs. So you can see that 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, every day, whatever we are executing, it traces the log. And also we'll get into the Docker and we'll
So
see that.
before you go further with that, I just have a couple questions about that really quickly.
Yes, sir.
If we're running this in Azure,
Mm.
do those writes have a place to go to whenever they're up on the server? Like,
Oh yes, yeah, it goes one level top. So that means what we are telling is wherever the
Hmm.
binaries will be there, so it goes one level top. So the interesting piece will come into picture. Like if you see this, the bin release wherever it is. So the binaries is here. So technically, the one level outside this binary. So this is the source code. One level it comes here.
Okay.
But at the same time, when we go to the Docker container, we'll see that here app is a main folder where everything is there. So if I do a dot dot, I come to the logs folder, it will be here. We'll see that real quick now. We'll see two different things. First thing is I will come and execute it. Yeah, why don't I execute it from the
Local runtime.
yeah local runtime 1 minute, and then other minute I will quickly execute it in the Docker container to see that. So you see that this is little bit different from the previous logging. All this is coming from these things are coming from the these things are coming from
Now it's still coming from standard out, right? It's colored now.
oh, yeah, it's colored. Yeah, no, what I've done because we configured it all three places. We said that write to debug, write to console. Also in settings, we set the write to file. So we are showing all these variations. So that's one thing. And now what I will do is I will go ahead and flip it to the Docker container. Now the execution mode is Docker. It will take a minute, and it will give us a control back. We'll see real quick. And the only thing, yeah, this is a fun part. I really liked it. This is very very good fun part. I mean, we already spent some time, Johnny and Robbie, where we switch now. The communication is between the container and container. We need to have the public IP of the container. We don't know whether this MongoDB holds this .3 or it might get a new public IP. We don't know, but we will spend 1 quick minute on that to pull the public IP. But I want to see that if it is changing, then there is other mechanism to go and get the public IP. So I want to show that variation also. So let's execute this. So we'll see a couple of points here. If at all IP changes without doing the Docker inspect, there is another mechanism where we can go in the public IP. We will see that, as well as we'll get into do a Docker exec, get into the Docker container, come out of that, and try seeing the logs inside that. So again, we will see the logs because we are writing to the console out, standard out, as well as to the file. So we'll see both the variations now. Let it start. I think I can close this. It's not needed. And let's come to the logs. I think it will flush out the logs. Okay, this is one place we can see the logs. And where do we see the logs on the other side of the world? Other side of the world will come back to here. And is that the one? Yes, this is the one. So if I select this products API, we can see that the logs is coming in from the Serilogs. You can see that this is the different logging Serilog. And I do want to execute this real quick. That's one thing. It might blow, we don't know, but let's see that. If at all IP changes, then it will most probably IP has changed. Good. I wanted this to come. The IP of this Mongo container has changed. So in the previous episode, what did we do is we opened up a console and we did a Docker inspect and gave the image ID of this Docker container, and then we were able to pull it. But now what is happening is this tooling is making our lives dead easy. So let me go to the okay, I'm sorry, here. Okay, it is failing. It is failing. Let it fail. Let it fail. No problem. So let's come to those ports. Here we will have ports, and here it shows this volumes, and here we have the files. You can see this app, and most probably the logs are here. You can see. I told, isn't it? We did a inside app is where we have our binaries. So see this, the binaries are here. Here we set that dot. So go to the parent of this app and create the logs. We can see this log files here, and this is the file logging. And
Serilog file output.
Yes, sir. That's Serilog. We did dot. So anywhere the binaries which are here, the binaries. So it comes one level top and it creates a log folder. And this is other place. Seriously, I didn't expect that I can get the IP address from here in the Visual Studio. It made me cry, tears of happiness. I can come in tears of joy. I cried for a moment. Said that thanks to all the architects whose brain was behind this, the entire team.
When you
See that?
the error log, if you waited for the error to time out on the web service, you would actually see in the error log saying that it request timed out, right? But it wouldn't say
Right.
why. You'd have to go to Atlas and look at it from that end, I would imagine. But you can also find it right here. You can find the address you're needing right here.
Right. We will see this address, whatever is needed here. And you can come in here. Okay, that's this one. And let me see that Mongo container shop. It's running. Yeah, it's running. There's nothing different.
What
So it
does
should
it
work.
say was the actual error in your HTTP?
I didn't. I did not. Oh, it's because might be the secret JSON is pointing to that. Oh, I injected it here. The local MongoDB. So the container. Oh, I'm sorry. I went into the wrong container. Apologize. It's my mistake. 1.3. Whatever the .3 we have used, the .3 was the products API container. What .3 is IP, it has changed. Now the instead of MongoDB, the .3 IP was allocated to the products API. So now we go to that MongoDB, which will be at the bottom. So if I go to the shop Mongo and go to the bottom of this file, it has become IP address has changed to 0.2. So now products API got 0.3 and MongoDB has got 0.2. So technically we need to come here and from 3 we need to change. So this is good that we faced this problem. So we were able to learn something new. So we learned three different things in this 5 minutes. We learned Serilogs can spit to standard out to the console, to the debug, as well as to the file. And we showed other variation through programmatically configuring and through configuring through the app settings.
Yeah.
And
I think
another thing,
we showed, but we didn't really make very clear. So I just want to highlight this is that the log that you're writing, it appears to me anyway, it looks like the log that you're writing in the file system is what is actually getting picked up and reflected in Docker. Is that correct? Or is it the...
Exactly, it is correct. We will do a Docker exec.
Yeah.
So here this is a Mongo shop. Now we do a Docker exec into that products. Here is the products. We go to the products, and I do a Docker exec. So this is the console out. This is a console out.
Oh, it is.
And
Okay.
yeah, so if I go it here into the Docker container, I do print working directory. It's an app. So that is what we see over here.
Docker's not my thing. I need the explanation. Thank you.
Okay, so here we have seen that app and logs.
Yeah.
So okay, so I can do cd dot dot, and I do ls, and I do cd logs,
Logs.
and I do ls and cat of. You want me to type? I don't have that much energy. It's night, 9:52 p.m.
It won't tab out. Oh.
No, it's not doing it. There you go. So that's pretty cool, isn't it? What do you say about this, Robbie? About storing his Serilogs inside the Docker container? It's like I liked it a lot when I saw that.
Yeah, I think well, if it's actually what's fueling the log report, then I think it's important. But if it's actually picking up the execution and reflecting the execution, then having the file is still valuable. But it's not fulfilling something different from App Insights, I guess, if you were to wait until you had deployed it. When you're developing locally, you have immediate access to the console out. So you would be able to find any issues that you run into because you have a small scope of time that you're going to be looking at it. You're not going to be running it for days as a server on your Visual Studio or something. But then in App Insights, I guess you could rely on that as well. It's an option.
Exactly. So here we have the logs. So it tracks it over multiple days. If someone reports us an issue on 12th of April, we can go back in time, look at these logs, what happened, which we don't have access if we are doing it from the console. That's one point. And also now this gives us an opportunity to write some kind of watchdog or some kind of cleanup tool, which goes and verifies the log. Any log which is more than 1 week, it has to zip it and put it to somewhere else because we don't want to bump up the space. We don't want to. Yeah, we don't want to eat up the space.
Yeah.
So the next thing we'll take one quick minute is to speak about the Postman collection. Robbie, do you want to take that up on the Postman?
Yeah, so I thought it was important. Front-end development is going to benefit from these endpoints, and one of the things that people sometimes do, which we're not actually doing here at this moment yet, but eventually we might look at providing a mock rather than requiring everybody to load up the server instance. And Postman is a great way to do that. But in general, the front end working with the back end will want to agree upon a schema before they commit their transactions. And you want to be able to test that and look at it. And so Postman's a great tool for that. We've got these Postman scripts because you can save the Postman scripts and then reuse them. You can set up variables. You can set up tests. It's actually a pretty complicated and integrated, environment. We're not really getting into the weeds in that. We're just providing a simple interface to write our query on, in this case, onto the products API. And it's put into the main. We put it in the main repository because as we build out different microservices, we're intending to reflect those microservices through an API gateway. We want one common location for that, and the main location is a great way to be able to test the entire set of responsibilities that are, that can be reflected at that point. So we've got this, this query set up, and that one is the API for products, and it's set on the get, so you'll get all of the products.
Yeah. So I'm going to local. I click on this. So it's bringing in. Just let me do something mischief, and it says 404 not found, and we'll go this. And we saved all these things in, as Robbie mentioned it, we are saving it everything inside the main folder here under the documentation, Postman collection. So we will have the environments local. Now we'll push the ACI also. After this session, we will push the environment for ACI, Azure Container Instance, Azure Container Local, as well as the Postman collection. So all three will be available. Anything to add, Robbie or Johnny, from your side on this, the Postman collection?
I guess from my point of view, then this Postman is there as a tool set to actually test out your APIs and really kind of use it as a mechanism to query your microservices and look at the results that you're getting back. Really rather than having a full blown deployment of an application that is kind of testing it. This is just a way to quickly test those back end APIs that are pulling query from databases. Yeah.
Yeah. So Robbie already did it touch upon on that one. This is like just we just introduced what this Postman tool is, but we will write test cases also here. Like you do any deployment, excluding the UI piece, you can run set of API calls, assuming that someone went and brought set of products and he selected a couple of products, put it in the cart, in the basket, and he goes to the basket and he checks out and he does a payment. So these 4 steps, these 4 APIs, once it deploys the latest version, we did some change, we deploy it. We don't need to go to the UI to do all this testing. We can write the test scripts here, and on click of one button, the Postman will go and call different URLs or different endpoints, get the output, and then pass. We can transform that output of one API call into the input to the other API call. Robbie, do you want to elaborate on that scenario, Robbie?
You were talking about the reuse of variables. Whenever you post from one, you can get your token and then reuse it on the next.
Exactly. Similarly, if you exclude the UI and we want to get all the products and select one of the product from this and make a call to the basket API, add it to the cart.
Yeah, you could do something like select a specific variable or a header in the response, things of that nature, assign it to a variable, and then save that in a chain of queries, so that in a subsequent query you would be able to reuse that for a different purpose, like on an update call after the first one. And we do have an update endpoint already set up, actually.
Exactly. That's cool. Okay. So the next point, what we will be discussing is showcasing the existing test case. Robbie, to you, Robbie.
Okay. So let me. Well, okay. Well, if you've got it open, can we go into the test project?
Yep. Sure, sir.
Yeah. So we have a test project set up. He's been much better at that with the back end than I have with the front end, but that's for a future date. And what I wanted to highlight in here, we just have basic tests to verify basic functionality for reflecting the products database. What I wanted to point out in this is that it was not quite as simple as you might hope it would be if you don't try to, if you if you try to like if you just go for a very natural approach, basically in terms of mocking your service, what you actually have to do is you have to mock a iMongo collection. You need to reflect the infrastructure that's being passed. Because if you look at the implementation, well, first I guess we should just look at what happens whenever you run it. Can we run one of
Okay.
these tests?
Okay. So this is the test explorer and run all tests in view.
Yeah.
So
So this will grab all tests in the whole test project, or in that file.
all the test projects are getting executed,
Okay.
and we added a new attribute. We know the pain when we used to go and create a run settings and exclude the test projects, because when the next step is we will do a code coverage. So during that time, what will happen is it will go and okay, looks like it got stuck somewhere. One second, let me do a cleanup. So what will happen is it goes and calculates the coverage. We'll showcase it in a minute, like what lines are covered, what lines are not covered. We will see that visually, and then we will speak about one of the attribute, and people, if they have worked in the previous version, they will know that how painful it is to exclude it. Now it's pretty simple. On top of the class, you write an attribute exclude from code coverage, so only the source code, these will be calculated for the code coverage. These projects will be excluded. Some coming into this. Ow. Come on, don't do this.
I can bring it up maybe.
Yeah, go ahead. I think.
I'm gonna share my screen at this point. I think I don't know.
Yeah, do you want to put it through the OBS screen, Robbie, and I'll pull it up onto the stream.
You know, this is awful. We didn't check. Can you can't see my screen, can you?
No.
Yeah, no. It's asking me to allow, but it won't actually give me the opportunity to allow because live casting. We didn't do this. We should have done this in advance.
So shall I reshare it?
And I think Robbie, whatever you're clicking on, I think you're using up some of your internet bandwidth because your audio is going all choppy as well.
Yeah, I'm sorry, guys. I am not going to be able to. I'm going to have to reconnect. Actually, let me try and reconnect.
Oh yeah,
Swami,
please
is
go
that
ahead. So in the meanwhile, is my screen is still in share, Johnny?
Yeah, your screen is still there, Swami.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
So I will tell you what happened is, sometimes what happened is it loses the architecture. So that is the reason, if you come and see that under this, let me recreate that problem. The process architecture of the CPU went back to auto. And that is the reason when I came back to the test explorer and when I tried to run that, it was unable to detect and it was unable to run that. So it was taking huge time. So whenever you encounter these kind of problems, you have to go and switch it back to that process architecture. So that's what I did it. I came back here and from auto I made it to x64. Then it start recognizes. So that's the
Okay.
first point. And the second point is the code coverage is this one. So I'll show you one of the good tool is this. I can come and say that analyze the code coverage. So when I do that, analyze the code coverage, what it does is it executes all these test cases and gets into the source code and check that which lines has been covered in these test cases. I mean, as Robbie mentioned, we just started very basic with the test cases, but by the time we complete this one microservice, we will have a decent 70 to 80% code coverage. Now we'll see the beautiful thing of this one is it shows that what all the libraries, you see that only the source libraries has been considered for the test case coverage, but none of the test cases because of that attribute. And another beauty of this is if I come in here and go to this products controller, if I select this and double click this, it clearly shows or highlights that in blue color. So all the things which has been blue colors means those has been covered, and anything which is not covered will be in this different color. So that means you know that how much risk you're taking if you're going into production with this percentage. Like if you see that I have six methods, hypothetically I'm telling, I have six endpoints and I tested only one endpoint.
Yeah.
Okay, so that means I'm going into production with 80% of the risk. Most probably I might get an issue in the production. Robbie, are you back?
I am back. Hey
Yes,
guys.
sir. Yeah, please take over.
Okay, I apologize. I had to go and set up permissions, allow permissions to share my screen, so I apologize for that. If you guys, can you verify you can see my screen?
Yeah, bear with 1 second. Let me flick over to it here so I can get it on the
I'm
stream.
trying to
Yep,
keep the
I'm
screen
able
out
to
of
see that.
Okay, I've got
I'm
the
able to
screen
see that.
down below. If you try to load the solution of Visual Studio 2019 for Mac, it won't load in any. I understand any 2019, not just for Mac. Is that correct? I think that's correct. But the
Oh, Robbie, I think we've lost your audio.
Yeah, you're back now, Robbie.
am I back? Okay.
Yeah, you're
Yeah,
back.
you're back.
All right. Visual Studio Preview is available only for 2022, so we have to launch the preview instead. So I just wanted to show that you can just download it and install it separately, and that makes it that this works pretty well out of the box. The reason is because of .NET. The version of .NET that we're using does not run in the previous version of Visual Studio.
Yeah, 2019 they doesn't support. Actually, initially when it was in preview, they supported it. All of a sudden they stopped supporting it. They said that guys, please use 2022.
Okay, yeah. So I've got the application up and running here, and I just want to, even though we were talking about testing,
Robbie,
I just want to take
could
a
you please
moment before we
maximize?
go further
Could you
and
please maximize this?
maximize that screen. Sure.
Visuals, yes, sir. Thank you.
I just want to take a second and run it, and so demonstrate that this is very simple. If by default it's set up and is running, and it'll load up products for me very easily. I think Swami can see that my zoom is a lot smaller than his, just based on that screen right there. And because I already have, you're going to have Docker up, and you're going to have your MongoDB shop loaded. I guess this one's open in IntelliJ. That's a different one. I think this won't work right now. Let's try that out. Yeah, it's not even giving me the. No, I do have data. Where's this data coming from, Swami? I'm not connected on Docker.
Oh, you need to change the secrets.json. It is coming from the Mongo. We have punched the hole in the firewall to allow the connections from anywhere for next 5 hours.
Oh, so I'm connecting.
Mongo Atlas. You are
Okay.
connecting to my Mongo Atlas, the cloud version.
Okay. We're going to skip this update for right now.
Yeah. I mean, you don't need to flash it, but the secrets JSON which we configured,
Yeah.
or the app settings, it is
that.
pointing.
I'm going to skip that for now. I just wanted to
Yes,
show
sir.
that we had data and that was working. That allows me to come in and move ahead to showing the tests. So what we noticed, do you remember which one we were looking at first when the product controller gets products? Is this the one?
Yeah, the which test, Robbie?
That's right. I'm wondering which test when we were working, there was we worked on one test in particular where we were not able to immediately to mock the data, and then we figured out.
Oh yeah, this one, get all products and get product by ID. Those are the two very good things which troubled us to a core, and we had to change the expected list and other things. It is in product repository test.cs, line number 46. That's product repository test under
Yeah.
products.repository test. Line number 46 is the first one, which we had to sweat a lot to bring up and running.
Yeah, this looks more familiar now. Actually, that's right. So
Yeah.
that's right. So if you don't do this, the other way of going about it would, the natural way to go about it would be to just provide the products list directly and to try and mock the response directly. But the thing is, it's expecting an iCursor, an async cursor from MongoDB on the list. It's not expecting the list itself. So what you had to do is you had to set up an async cursor to iterate across the list. This products list is set up. It's set up elsewhere. I'm not exactly sure where we got product get any products now. Yeah, it's just a list on products.
And the line 61 is the one which you have changed, Robbie.
Yeah, it's taking me out of. Okay, I have to. Let me close the other windows because I'm getting lost in all the other things that are open at the same time here. Okay. Yeah, that's right. So after you get the, well, I did both. We did the async function, and then we supply the async function in the case that there's a find. And the reason that we're doing that is because the product context has a get on products. So we should actually go to the product context and just look at the pieces here to investigate that. So this is a products get, and then that supplies the, is it the products repository that I'm actually thinking of?
Oh, we are mocking the products DB context. From product repository, we are mocking the product DB context. It is
right.
In,
this is the structure we're actually trying to mock. We're doing, or this one here, depending. So in the case that we're finding by ID, we want to find a specific product that matches a specific ID, and we want to return the first. If we want to get, this is a get on all of them, right? Yeah, that's the get on all of them.
Right.
Then we just return, give me no conditions. I just want all of them, and give it to me as a list async. And so the expectation, kind of, the naive expectation is that you would be able to just return the list, but that does not, that's why you need this structure here. The important part to highlight in this then works. If you provide an async cursor to an iMongoDB collection or iMongo collection and use that as the object that's returned, in this fashion, you'll be able to utilize a dummy products list like we have here. And that was the piece that we worked on together.
Robbie, other thing is get products by ID and get products by name. That was pretty tricky. We had to change it. Could you please highlight those pieces? It was very fantastic finding.
Okay, so this is actually on by name, is it?
Oh, by ID and by name. The name was a little different. It initially we were doing using the I forgot what was that. It expects an object, and then we converted back into this expression, which exactly it was returning it. Let me recollect. Yeah, regex, filter regex we converted. The get products by name wasn't that, and it was filter EQ.
I actually am not seeing regex in here.
Oh, that's in productsrepository.cs, line number 35.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
that's right. We actually had to change the way we applied the filter.
Yeah, this is what you want to highlight. When we tested, it was not giving, and that's where you unearthed that it expects to be the inner object of the major JSON. I mean, the parent JSON, the inner object. On that, we can do a filter. But if it is a regular field, we need to do this. Yeah, could you please touch upon that?
So yeah, I mean, what we need to be able to pass is a filter into find, because when we're testing we're mocking on the condition of a filter definition.
Right.
This one's on ID. Where's the one on name?
Name is the next method in the test case.
Yeah.
It starts in line number 143
Okay.
in the test case.
Yep. So it is still the same though. We're still matching on the basis of a filter definition. There's probably a different way you could write this, where you instead match it based on an error annotation, on an anonymous function. But we didn't set that up. We set it up in a kind of more standards compliant fashion, where it matches based on a filter definition. Where before we were doing it on equality on ID, and here we're doing it on name.
Right. So one advantage I find writing the test cases immediately is that we don't need to have the MongoDB setup. Like if I start with a products DB context and a repository, I expect that I can mock it and create a good code, which might not create bugs in production. Because these test cases, as we saw, Robbie, we wrote the code, and then once we wrote the test case, that's when we unearthed that some of the code was not working. Only get by name was not working. And after you started writing the test, and that's when you found that, okay, that's not the correct expression to be used, and we changed this code. I see a couple of advantages of having the test cases in place. Is the first advantage is we don't need to have the MongoDB in place to test this repository library. All is we can write a rock solid test cases to mock those individual pieces, like these 5 lines or these 3 lines. We tested this unit of code works good because based on our test cases. Like we need to write the test cases for rest of the 3 methods, which we are going to do in episode 3 and above.
Yes.
But that's what is my take on having this unit test cases.
Additionally, at the start of this, I mentioned that whenever I was doing the admin view, we don't have tests for that, and that is true. But that's not going to remain that way very long. I'm going back and adding comments and things. It's still under construction. I'm not the type to not test. I just wanted to say, testing is important, and to be able to connect to the workflow that makes the most sense for developers. I work with developers who sometimes they are able to work, and whenever this is true, it's always better, essentially, to just mock your data locally. Just provide mocks of the data set you're not actually connecting. Other times, you actually want to be able to connect to the back end and do your development in that fashion. And so, if you can set up your infrastructure so that you can change what your mock is pointing to, have good, robust environments, and allow your testing to be robust across its use cases. I think I'm not saying it very well, but I think that setting up good, robust tests is important, and changing the ability to change sources the way that we're building out is actually a fruitful enterprise.
Yeah. So the test pyramid is like is very important. Why do we need to have? We need to have a lot of unit test cases that which doesn't have any dependencies. We are mocking only those 3 lines or 4 lines. We are testing only those 3 to 4 lines. That is this one.
Yeah.
The level 0. And when you want to test the same class, you can with integration. That means you want to test the repository talking to a real database. That we call it as an integration test. So we'll come back to that one also. We'll write this level 0 and level 1 and level 2s like this. We'll write different levels. This pyramid, we will come back to that one. Robbie, do you want to to highlight this piece which we integrated. I mean, we'll come back to this CI/CD, but we are baking it behind the scene. It will be up and running by next 2 episodes. This
I don't
graph
know
I
what
like.
what you're referring to actually.
Oh, this graph I really liked it, Robbie. Like as and when we are progressing through the this code cow, which we integrated in our pipelines. So anytime you
Oh, it's
write, you
code
can,
coverage graph.
yeah, this graph. You see that a lot of things has been not covered. Only very few pieces we have covered it, but eventually we are going to.
Expand out that circle.
Exactly. Because now, and also the other advantage is this one. Anytime the code coverage was 24%,
So
by added something.
Swami, I feel like I did you a bit of disservice here in transitioning onto this topic because you now really need to speak on this one because this is the integration into our CI/CD, and I
Exactly.
didn't actually write that.
Okay. I derailed it. I'm sorry. I'm coming back. So, do you want to cover anything else on the section 2, Robbie?
So yeah, well, I would just point out that that graph is being fueled by tests that we're writing. So the I imagine, and the you must be implementing a system where you're executing the tests that are provided to it and then reading the results, or implementing it with something that executes coverage, that implements coverage. Like in a JavaScript environment or TypeScript environment, you would write tests and then you would use with Jest, you would use a -- coverage flag, and it would go and inspect that under the hood. It's using something called Istanbul to check to see how which sections of code or which blocks actually I think are executed, and there's probably a similar integration that's going on here.
Yes, exactly. That will come in episode 5 or 4. I don't know, but it's 2, 3, at least minimum 2 episodes away from now. I derailed it. I'm sorry for that. Do you have anything else to showcase, Robbie?
Regarding the tests, no. I think it's. I wanted to. What I thought was important to show there was just that since we're using this external data source, that there were some special considerations that were involved. They weren't not significant really, but it was worth highlighting.
Yep, agree. Anything from the Mac OS execution perspective?
So we just showed it.
Yep.
It's that simple. You download the Visual Studio 2022 preview for now, and you'll be able to run the .NET project.
Okay, so we executed using Visual Studio 2022 in Windows 10. The next flavor we did in Mac OS 12.3 on Visual Studio 2022 preview. Now we go to Ubuntu 20.4 and we use Visual Studio Code. So what we can do is, here is that Visual Studio Code, and I just did that. Okay, so I will close it here. So the beautiful thing of this is we just did configure.
Oh, looks like we've lost Swami. Looks like they've just had an outage there over with Swami, so we'll...
So he was just going to show that this is also runnable in Ubuntu. I think he was going to do that through a virtual machine.
Yeah.
Yeah. So apparently .NET works just as well on Ubuntu. I really can't speak on that because I did not run that on Ubuntu, and I don't even have a virtual machine to test that out.
No, but I guess that's the point, isn't it, Robbie? I mean, in terms of actually where, as a developer, you're running your code, the point here that's being indicated is it doesn't matter if you're running on a Mac OS, if you're running an Ubuntu client, if you're running a Windows client even, you can use the same code base and deploy and execute in the same manner, which is, with Docker Desktop into any other platform.
The AZ command is going to be the same. All of those details are going to be the same. Hey, I think we have Swami.
Swami's back.
Yeah, there was a blip in the internet. So what did we do is
You just about
am
to. We were
I-
just talking about the different deployment
Mhm.
mechanisms through different OSs, and obviously we're just about to show us the Ubuntu with VS Code. Yeah.
Yep. Looks like I need to switch it back to 5G. 2G it doesn't support. Just a moment. Let me flip it back. I might go offline for a sec.
Yeah.
It is flipping. Reconnect.
We
I
still
think
kept
I
you. This is
should
the
be
power
back.
of technology, Swarmy. Your signal is dropping, but that's amazing.
Yeah,
Back
the
in the
signal.
room.
Yeah, I'm back in the
So
room. So we,
yeah, the video drops, but it seems like I can see your screen the whole time, which is
Yeah.
nice.
oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. That's what I was amazed by. Yeah.
Right. So this Visual Studio Code, if you're in Ubuntu, it's fine. You can we configured the VS Code, so you can click on Start and Debug, and then you can click on Run. And that guy, I just put it a debug point just to showcase few things. And one of the thing I just wanted to showcase this builder.configuration. You can see this. I already put it here. I can go and look into that from a lot of different places. It's bringing in the configuration. I mean, we did a deep dive into the dependency injection, but just we wanted to showcase like what all the stores from which it is bringing in this configuration providers. We can get into that, and we can see that it is coming from the secrets.json, it is coming from the app settings, and at different places you can see that that object is there, and you can go and check this MongoDB settings. Everything is coming in. I just wanted to highlight that. And another important point is here also you have that local variables, and you have the call stack. It's all full-fledged, like anything you want you can have it here. And let's execute it. I'll remove the debugger, and now we have it over here, and it's nicely coming and showing us this. And I can go and execute this here and switch it back to this one. See that you can come in here, and nicely that is already available. Whatever the local window, if you go and check that, you have these many products, 5 products. I click on this, it comes. You have watch window, you have variables and locals, breakpoints, everything. It's like a full-fledged ID. Everything we can do that. So that's one mechanism which we can execute. uh, what we also did is, suppose you have a pretty much a console, and you don't have this Visual Studio Code ID also. You have only a console, you have .NET 6 and nothing else, only terminal you have it. No problem. What did we do is we can switch it back to the bash, and here we can go back to
It makes me
script.
wonder if you can, with the visual, since you shared Visual Studio code running it, it makes me wonder if you could even run this directly from the repo in the Visual Studio code view. You know, like if you hit period on a repo in GitHub, it'll bring up Visual Studio or Visual
Mhm.
Studio Code. I mean, in the browser.
Oh, yeah, yeah. I think it should allow. Only thing is, if we properly configure it, I think it will definitely allow.
I
And
well, yeah, maybe not, just because you have to do a build step here, right? So it may not, but
yeah,
in a pure JavaScript environment, at least for now, you'd be able to do that.
okay. Let me copy this. Okay, I can do it from here itself. So what is happening is, why I'm not able to do it. Let me do that. I'll go to the script folder and I do ls-help. At this point of time, I don't have this action. So I do chmod 764 asterisk,
Oh, that's
and
you don't have the .x. So so that chmod 764 must be like UG plus X or something. Yeah, it's
Actually,
just U plus X.
yeah. So now what I'm doing is now I'll come back to this, and even if you have only this command prompt or the terminal, so you can come and execute it. Mm. You can execute this and navigate to this link. Click and navigate to this link and add a swagger here. You can directly do that, or else if you have a postman tool, definitely whatever the tool which we are using it, that will definitely be helpful and it's reusable. So I can directly go here. I think I do have a postman here. I'm not sure at this point of time, but in the interest of time, we will configure the postman in Mac OS as well as in Ubuntu, so we can see this things executing seamlessly in Windows, in Mac OS, also in Ubuntu 2020. So we can do a war cry saying that .NET everywhere. Yeah. So that's it. So anything else to focus here?
No, I think we should have working in Ubuntu and Mac OS and obviously in Windows.
Yeah. So the other thing is very interesting piece is this one. So now till now we were playing inside our local machine. Now we come out of the box. Now let's start introducing Azure. So this is a resource group, and there is nothing in here. So, and you can see that we don't we have the Docker Hub repository, and this is the image. And you can see that when was the last time we push something to this image was 9 hours ago I pulled it, but 2 days ago we pushed it. So
Yeah.
now what the next step, what do we do is we'll use the script to push our code, the products API from our local machine to this Docker Hub here. That's step one. And the step two will be we'll pick up that image from the Docker Hub and then we'll deploy to Azure Container Instance, single container instance. So that's the script. So for that, if you see that we have created a example.bashrc, you should have this similar bashrc. You need to use it. And first step is we'll build and push the image to the Docker Hub, step one. And after that, the step two is what we will do is we'll deploy a single Azure container instance, taking the image from the Docker Hub, everything through scripting. We are not going to touch the portal. The portal, we'll touch it only for the verification, right?
So Swami, before you get into that a little further,
Yes,
can you
sir.
just pause for a second to
Yes, sir.
discuss that? The reason I'm asking is because I'm just wondering about the location for this. We're providing a script for this, right?
Right.
Is this going to be used in a CI/CD pipeline, or is this meant for developers to experiment? If they do experiment,
They-
is this going to install on their own subscription? What's the
Very
consequences?
good question. Very, very good question. So this is purely for the developers to make their feet wet and hands dirt on that. So this is like here we have given some of the things which we have hard coded. Eventually, as we discussed, we will move everything to the bash RC file. So this bash RC file, whatever we have, example bash RC we have given, eventually what we are going to do, their own personal Docker image name and their own Mongo connection string, their ACR username, their ACR password, whatever it is, where they have to build it. And then that will exactly take them to the subscription. If you see this, the script, in this script, we are telling that put it to this repository. Now this is going to the Docker Hub. When we create the Azure container instance, here we are giving the uh, resource group which is there inside my Azure subscription. So this is our local to a developer.
I think it's
For
probably
him to
wise to point out there as well, Swami, is that if developers had access to multiple subscriptions, it may be that we have to hard code in there. We have to set the account that we're going to use in Azure before we run those commands. Otherwise, it will
Yes.
pick whatever it sees as your default subscription, which may not necessarily be the one you want to deploy it to.
Yeah,
Correct.
we did promise we were going to add you took on a to do an echo to remind
Yeah.
people that this could hit multiple subscriptions.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
One question I was going to ask Swami in terms of,
Yeah.
I mean, it's cool to see we're going to store this in Docker Hub now and deploy it to an Azure Container Instance. What might be some of the considerations we want to think about, whether we store our image in Docker Hub or an Azure Container Registry? What are the differences there?
Okay, so we are showing both the flavors. One is the Docker container as well as the Azure Container Registry. We are going to show both of them in next 10 to 15 minutes. So the consideration is whether you have your own Docker Hub. It is there. For me, if you see that I use it for my community service, it's free. So I wanted to push it there. And sometimes what will happen is your company would have purchased a plan in Docker Hub. So that becomes a private registry. So you can push it there. Suppose your company is using Azure to the core and they want everything to be private, but within this within the same Azure subscription. So it becomes like everything. Like I can give an RBAC access or give permissions to go and pick it up from there. So that depends upon what resources you are using, whether you want to use it Docker Hub or Azure Container Registry.
So it's really not in order of preference. It's not like there's a prescription to do this one way or another. These are just different options that are available between them.
Right. There are different options. Like you have Docker Hub, you have Azure Container Registry, or you can have it on your on-premise also.
Yeah.
So we are showing both the flavors. You can use Docker Hub and you can use Azure Container Registry.
Cool.
So any other queries?
No, that sounds good. Not from me.
Good to let you go back to it now. Sorry.
No problem. This is good discussion. Okay. So let me go to scripts and B1. So what does B1 do is it goes to it picks up our image and it uses the commit number and it adds the tag here. Let's see that in action instead of speaking, because it takes, so it is 55FE6E.
So we'll go the Docker tag command. Is that it?
Oh, I'm taking it from the Git log. Whatever is the previous commit.
Yeah.
From that, I'm picking up that number and that I'm using to tag it, because every time, every different commit will have a different unique number.
Yeah.
It's all coming from the Git. I mean, I wanted to do a unique thing. So I did Google, and Stack Overflow gave me this idea. So thanks to author, whoever has answered that question. So it's building. You can see that beautiful layers are there. Oh, while we are discussing about this one.
Actually, this brings up, if I can jump in really quickly, this brings up something that we had talked about before, where I had asked a question, not knowing the answer myself, which was about Docker. And I think that what happens during the last episode, I asked this, and we pointed out that whenever you use the from command, it starts from that image, and you can refer to a previous build step and sequentialize it. The indication was that then everything is executing within that block from one from to the other simultaneously. But I don't think that that's actually, I'm not positive, but I don't think that that's actually how that works. I think it works like a make file where it'll execute one, then it'll execute the next. But if those things will run in the background, if it launches a process and allows it to complete, then in that case, then you really will get a parallel execution. I just want to do to apologize and give a little, I don't have all of the answers actually, but to give a little bit more insight into something, because I brought it up myself in the previous in the previous episode.
Yeah. So you can see that it was executing this, and then it created a build and started pushing it to the server. So it says that the server is up and running with this tag. So we can go back to the Docker Hub registry, and let me do a refresh on this one. So the previous one was 2 days ago. And now that we pushed it, we can see that a minute ago, and that is 55FE6EF, the same number we saw that. Okay, so now we did step one. So we picked up our code, and we created the image out of this, and we pushed it to the Docker Hub without even going to any tool. With this 5 to 6 lines of scripting, we were able to achieve. Now what we will do is we'll come back here. There is nothing in here. There are no Azure container instance now. So we'll use the second script B2. So what this B2 guy does is this B2 guy goes and gets the image, because that's my public repository, and then it creates a Azure container instance. So let's see that. I do scripts and B2. So when I execute that, so it will start creating the Azure container instance. It picks up the image from the Docker Hub, and it creates a single Azure container instance. Let's come back here.
And
Firebase.
it'll automatically delete that instance for you after 24 hours, right?
Which one?
I was just teasing. You got to remember, if you create these things, you don't want them to be running up there. You're experimenting. Maybe you might want to come back afterwards and make sure you've deleted all the instances.
Oh, I delete it immediately after our demo.
I mean, that's probably a valid point, is to discuss running, using the Azure CLI command line over something like Terraform, and using Terraform apply and Terraform destroy. You can kind of pull those resources down quite quickly with Terraform, which, we can delete contents of a resource group, but equally you could put that in a pipeline potentially,
Yeah, that's
true. Yeah. True. Yeah, that will be coming in episode 5 and above from us. So we have created it, and the thing which I want to highlight is we had those information in our project repo, but wanted to give a quick highlight that we need to have this settings in our configuration, app settings. But now that we are deploying that into Azure container instance, we need to ensure that it has to, there is no other container at this point of time. It's a single container instance. If we deploy multi-container, one container as MongoDB and other container as API, at that time, fine, we can use this one. But now that we are using single container, so we need to have a proper connection string, which is to our Atlas or anywhere where you have the MongoDB. That's one important point. Now, just wanted to show you, highlight one thing is when here we used environment variables and secure environment variables, because I don't want others to come and see my MongoDB connection string. So we can get into this Azure container instance, and we can go to this containers, and here we can see that it has pulled the image from my Docker Hub BC Pylor, and it successfully pulled it, and it started the container, and we can come and see the logs, and we can come to the properties. And if I come in here, you see this anywhere where I mentioned like environment variables, it created environment variables with the clear text. And anywhere I specified that secure environment variable and this MongoDB connection string, that connection string, it secured it. It's not displaying. That one point I just wanted to highlight. And the second thing is how do you access now that you did it? This is my container instance. Now we can come back to our tooling. Here I can flip from local to Azure container instance. So if you mouse over on this one, it clearly shows that ACI, that's V1. I can edit to point this, edit to point that to.
You have to change that to point to your remote, your Azure instance.
Yep. Yeah. Exactly. That's the version 1. So I just did it, and let me do the same, copy paste on the current value also. And I'll make this as underscore V, and this one I'll call it as. So just, I mean, technically it should be two different ACIs, but we are having the single one. I have to flip it, but you guys don't need to do that. And that one collection, whatever is there, now if you mouse over, it is going to the V1 version of that. And now if I do a send, you can see that it is going in from here and come back to this containers and come back to this containers and click on this logs. I'll take this logs and put it over here, API slash v1 slash products. I just want to ensure that it is hitting this. I need to boot it up. No, it's not hitting this guy. One second. What is this? Okay. So actually, this logs it should show it. It didn't receive this hit. So what we can do is it will not happen, but sometimes if it is not working, we can stop and restart this one. I mean, this is not expected, but there is a temporary blip which we are facing it. So I'm doing a stopgap. Please don't do this. I'm doing it because of demo, because that will be a very big escalation. You restarted something in production. So you can see this. It will start in a minute. So you can see that it is it's pulling it, and we should see the container has started. And now let's go and hit this. It should go get the content. We should see this in the logs. If we are seeing it, then we are good. If not, no, it's not hitting this guy.
Mhm.
I don't know, for some reason. Okay, we'll try with the IP address. This I never faced this problem. I slash v1 slash products. Seriously? Oh, why?
Can you look at your deploy log? Whenever you ran the script, or I'm just wondering, did we see something? Did we see abnormal? Or did
Weird.
we miss abnormal output?
Yeah. I didn't see that. It said it's success.
Okay.
Yeah. See that's what it is saying. It's giving the FQDN also properly. Give the proper FQDN. And
After it deploys it, does it also it starts it?
oh yes, it will. It will.
Okay.
It will start the container also, but I never faced it previously. So it's not
Actually, we
going.
restarted anyway. So
Ah, it never.
Does it say only
Did
listening on
that?
port 80 there?
Yeah, it opens the port 80. Uh,
Hmm.
so it listens on the port 80 and sure shot it.
Pardon me a second. I have to.
Yeah, it does. Yeah. See, we are able to see that it's running. Okay, so we can do a quick connect into this to see something. Ah, It's picking up the old one, old image.
Okay.
It is picking up the old image.
I had to step away for a minute.
Oh, it didn't pick up the latest image. That's an issue. It didn't pick up the latest image because that shows it. Because when I went into the container, it didn't pick up the latest image. Something is wrong because
Have you got the tag in your deployment script, or are you
for the
just using
deployment,
latest?
I am using latest.
Okay.
So the script should see that it didn't pull this latest. So let's redo that again. So where is that? Yeah, we are putting it here. Docker username.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so let me do echo Docker username. It's doing it. Okay, so let's give that another shot now. Scripts and B2. That's the one.
Do you think that this could have been caused by the proximity of running the first script to the second script? Could it not have finished being deployed, basically, or being publicly available?
It could be. It could be because we gave couple of minutes a minimum to discuss about that. And one thing I'm seeing that is it was never pulled. This was never pulled. So what I do is let me go back and first nuke this off, and let's recreate that. Let's execute that one piece again. I think that should solve this problem because when we went into our Docker Hub registry, because something went wrong. It didn't pull this one, first thing. And it was having the previous image maybe the 6 days ago or 9 hours ago. Definitely not the 9 hours ago. 9 hours ago is that I changed to product API. It was showing API gateway. That was a log file name inside the logs folder. That means it's coming from 6 days old. So that got something is wrong there. So let's redo that. Let's take one quick minute on that and recreate it. That should go. Or for the time being, I call it as 11. Okay, just for the time being, because let's do that and scripts B2. Deploying that B2 now. I think it should go and okay. I think the DNS level also should be 11. DNS level should be 11, and I execute the B2.
While this is running, I can go back and touch on the testing a little bit more.
Oh yeah, please go ahead.
So I actually I benefit from this because I got interrupted with my connection because I didn't have screen permissions set for sharing at the start of the process. I was going to say that people benefit, or in a work environment, you benefit from various types of testing, which Swami did a good job of illustrating. So like you would have unit testing that really helps developers. Then you would replay that unit testing as new unit testing and new features are added to make sure that you didn't break anything. And that's usually the process that's called regression testing. I almost lost the word. And all of those things can be integrated, that sort of testing in general. And even if you go further and say, like, does the user interface respond the way you expect? That sort of end-to-end testing, or sometimes implementation of end-to-end testing is done through a process called user acceptance testing. All of those things can be done. They don't, like an end-to-end version of that. They can be done by scripting. You can do that in the CI/CD pipeline. Another thing that is valuable is coverage. The coverage testing just tells you whether or not a block of code has been entered into or not, and it gives you a sense in the test, and it gives you a sense of how much are you making? How much assumption is involved? You would think, okay, well, I want like 100% coverage, but you never want 100% coverage. Even in a TDD-driven environment, you're not going to achieve. It would be very rare to achieve a 100% coverage. It would be somewhere in the order of maybe like a high number might be like 80%, of personal opinion. And for non-test driven development, you would probably shoot for lower than that, somewhere like 60 to 80%, something like that. But you want to sense that in general, most of the stuff that is important that you're doing, within your components is tested. Most of the configuration that's unique as opposed to boilerplate is tested, definitely. And you want to sense that whenever you make changes for a feature, that you're not going to break things. And that can be complicated. Parts of that can be taken on by separate groups, but a lot of times it's up to the developers to do that. And a great place to start is to work from unit tests, by building and collecting your unit tests and keeping them, and then integrating them into your CI/CD so that you don't have to manually recreate these, essentially reports. That makes sure that makes it easy to ensure that you can develop and publish in an agile fashion, that ultimately what you're producing is of enough quality that you'll be able to present it, even if the type of development environment that you're in is such that people expect there to be bugs, as you're working towards a more stable and mature release. You still don't want to, publish silly bugs. So, the testing that you write can do that.
So this one I see, I just created. I thought there's something going wrong there. Instead of wasting time, I jumped to the C demo where I just created a Azure Container Registry instead of Docker Hub. Now it is Azure Container Registry. At this point of time, we don't have any items in the registry. Let's check C2 where it containerize and drops the thing to Azure Container Registry instead of the Docker Hub, because I'm seeing something is going wrong here, because we have executed it and for some reason either it's not able to pull or it's not able to retrieve, but I'm seeing that it's all going pretty slow. See this, it didn't even come here, and I feel like it's like stuck somewhere,
Okay.
because that's what I'm seeing. But let's execute that ACR Azure
Are
Container.
you seeing a slowness in the Azure resource that that you're using for deployment? Is that what you're saying? It's in the problem that you're seeing. Your suspicion is that maybe there's a temporary issue in your Azure environment.
I think so. I'm really not sure, because see this, we just clicked on delete 6 minutes ago. Still, it's not. It didn't delete this one.
Yeah, I
And
see.
another, yeah, that's one thing I'm suspecting why it is happening. And the second thing is when
Why,
I see this, it is pulling this image.
in that case,
And
why don't we park the ACR, the Azure part of it for right now? I know we really wanted to cover that, but I'm just thinking if the environment is taking 6 minutes to delete a resource, then
yeah, because I think now it has pushed to the ACI. Let's check our luck. In 2 minutes, I think it should be up and running. It'll not take much time. Let's come to the access keys and update that. Robbie, good that you gave me this idea to pop this up, update. So I'm just popping it up, and this is where I come and update this. Let's see that. I think this should work. Scripts and C3. And now whatever the C3 script is doing is it is going to our Azure Container Registry. It's pulling up the image from that, and it is deploying another container instance. We are calling it as products v2. It's going to create it.
So I saw you
And
paste a password into a script file. But I take it
Yeah.
that password's not actually in the script file, so there's going to be like a find and replace keyword in there for people.
Yeah, it is. It is at the top. See this? It started working. The V1 now.
Oh, okay. Wow.
I think I told you that something is delayed it here, which it was troubling. See this? The V1 it started working, and the funniest part is
It'll
that we
delete
put
in
it under
another minute.
delete. Yeah, exactly. 8 minutes ago we put it for delete. Now it is working. It pulled the latest image now. You see that?
Yeah.
That's working. Thank God. That's what I was figuring out. So now I think this V11 should also work. Let me copy this and go to this V1 and V11. If I'm not wrong, this V1, V11. There you go. See this. Now the version 1 and version 2, both Azure Container Instance, whatever we created, those started working. And I think there will be V2 now that is coming in from Azure Container Instance. You see this? These two Azure Container Instance are coming from the Docker Hub,
Yes.
and the V2 is coming in from the Azure Container Registry. So now I come back to this guy where it was failing. Now I click on that. There you go. See that the V1 is working now.
Yeah.
For some reason it delayed it. Now I will go back to this
So we
and
did the A and
change.
the B scripts, right?
I'm sorry, what's that?
I was going to say we did the. You're going to change and get the other servers, the second resource. that
Yeah.
we published.
Yes, the second one. So I will change that to. I'll change that to this one. So that's there. I can come back to this. Let me save the changes to that. And now let's see, ensure that it is products V2. And now I hit this.
Probably getting the
I
same
think now-
delay now. Are you on that one?
Exactly. I don't want.
Yeah.
I don't want to spend any more time on that, because we can see this once we come back to this containers, we can see that in logs that these were hit. See that? We can see that logs. So that's a proof that we were able to hit this container. That was V11 or V1. Let's go to the V2. But I think there is some delay there. So let's not spend time to see that logs. At least we have seen two places. We see this V1 and V11.
Very good.
Okay.
So we
So-
showed the A and the B scripts for people who are looking at our repository and wanting to play a bit with it and understand it. I think there's also a C script, right?
True. ABC.
Yeah.
This one. So
Right.
unnecessarily we changed it, but it's just a delay. I think looks like some resources are getting delayed here, but that might be a temporary blip, or
That's
it's
not
happening only-
unusual, Swami. I mean, I don't know about Azure Container Instance, but resources in Azure do struggle like this from time to time. In my experience, where you can spin things up, the portal may tell you that it's all up and running fine, but behind the scenes it's still playing a little bit of catch up. So that's
Yeah, looks like that's what
Yeah.
I'm saying. See this. Now the
Yeah.
V2 is going through the same path where we struggled on V1. Unnecessarily we created another thing, but we understood that, because see this, whatever the thing which we thought of to delete it 12 minutes ago, that is still giving us the content. That's good. That's good. Okay, so I think let me quickly do a recap on what did we do in this session 2. So session 2 we started with some other new features. 3 features we spoke about it. One was that Serilog, which we liked it a lot and we were able to do it. And the good thing is we were able to see the Serilog inside the Azure Container Instance inside our local Docker. We're able to see that Postman collection and showcasing the unit test cases. And the good thing to have the Postman collection is having different environments. I can flip it between the environments, but the set of APIs and the queries are only one set. Environments are different. That's pretty good thing. And future we'll see a lot of other advantages of that. And we executed the solution on Mac OS. We executed in Ubuntu. And we saw that we can directly go to the Swagger, or we can directly go and hit the endpoint. And here is the secret JSON we are using it. And we saw the bash scripts. It's only for the developers to play. Eventually we'll be having the Terraform, biceps or arm templates to do the CI/CD, but it's just to uh, developers to give their a shot to see that how it works. And then we pushed an image to Docker Hub and created a single container instance from Docker Hub image, and we were able to access that. And the second thing is we created the Azure Container Registry using the CLI, the script, and then pushed this image to Azure Container Registry, and then deployed the another single container instance from the Azure Container Registry, and then we were able to access it. And we saw the advantage, the same query we can flip between the local and ACI, and we were able to get this. Back to you, Robbie and Johnny, if you want to add something.
I was going to say it would be good to talk about what we're going to be working on next or showing next. I actually don't know. I don't have the sheet to be able to describe to you what we're going to be looking at in session 3, but I know that I am working on the admin view, and I am look at architecture and admin soon, if not immediately.
I'm really sorry. We discussed that. It slipped from my mind. I'm really sorry for that. So what's coming in session 3? Session 3 we'll discuss more on the configuring the configuration. It's like train the trainers. It was a very rhyming sentence, but we will see how many ways you can, even though we implemented the strongly type configuration, we'll see other mechanisms to configure. And this is the one which we carry forward from the session 1. Robbie and Johnny, they wanted to showcase the Docker commands. How do you do the volume mount? And that we will showcase, and we'll introduce the DTO. At this point of time, whatever we are spitting the entity.
I have a separate side project on my own, and I'm benefiting from. I've actually gone and looked this stuff up now to be able to do the same. Yeah, I was one of the reasons I wanted to look at that was because of the fact that I could benefit from it myself.
Yeah, this data transfer objects and automapper. And then we'll start discussing on the Docker Compose. This is also pending from the session 1.
And then don't listen to DevOps guys that say that you should never use Docker Compose.
Okay.
I'm just throwing a jab out there. I don't mean anything.
And we will do a deployment using multi-containers. At this point of time, Azure Container Instance is using single container. Now we will use multi-container, and also we will use app service containers using this Docker Compose. We'll deploy 2 containers. One is local Mongo container and the other one. And we will see how can we able to access. So a lot of action in session 3. And as Robbie was mentioning, behind
there's
the scenes.
There's a lot of DevOps in session 3.
Yeah, serious DevOps. And a lot of things are being worked out behind the scene. Is that whatever is this the proposed architecture which we started, we'll come up with the actual, because at this point of time we started with this microservice, and Robbie has already started working on the admin UI using Angular 13. And API Gateway is the V1 version of the API Gateway Oslet is here, and the admin client Robbie is working. So all the pieces which we are working right now, the real current version, we'll draw a new image and we'll put it besides this, so that we'll know that how we are progressing from what we proposed and what we are going through. And I mean, pretty soon, it will go a lot faster than this, because this is the first microservice which we are building. We'll spend a decent amount of time on this, so that we'll go nook and corner. It's not we are focusing on one thing, we are focusing on everything, like designing, architecture, coding, unit testing, CI/CD, scripts, and
So whenever we get to the basket or the discount orders or things like that, there are still going to be things that are worth focusing on. We'll probably take time and look at the differences in implementation, like with basket, or in other places perhaps we may be looking at Redis, and the differences we'll still be highlighting. But yeah, not everything needs to go through we won't have the same level of detail probably in that approach. I think that the reasons why I was coming back to this, this view is, I had alluded to the architecture. We had mentioned, Swami said, hey, we don't have an architecture diagram for our current architecture. We have our target architecture, So I think we're going to get together and knock that out to have a living document to reflect our architecture.
Yeah, correct. So we just realized 30 minutes before we start the session, we don't have the current one. This is the target goal to be achieved. So what is as is now? So we will be doing. So a lot of actions are going to come. But once we develop this behind the scenes, which we are stitching these other pieces. So lot many action. Once this is done, the Terraform, Kubernetes, the service mesh, alerts and monitoring, Prometheus, and health check UI dashboards. Pretty much a lot of things are going to come. I mean, we are taking time, but it is every minute we are spending will be worth. Anything to add on that, Robbie and Johnny?
Nothing from. No, go on, Robbie. You go first.
No, I was going to say nothing else for me.
No, same here. I think it's just cool. I mean, I know we've gone. What are we now? Hour and 40 again. These sessions. As soon as you get into them, there's some great information coming out. So, nothing to add from me, to be honest. Swami and Robbie, that was fantastic to see how things are progressing, and yeah, looking forward to the next session now, which I think will be the first week in May now.
May 6th.
May 6th. So we'll get the RSVP out for that. Thanks to everybody that's joined us so far. But yeah, I guess we're going to call it there then, guys.
All right. Happy holidays. Happy Easter to everybody.
Yep. Same to you guys. See you in a few weeks' time.
Happy Tamil New Year, right?
Yeah. Oh, it's Tamil New Year. Thank you, Robbie.
You're welcome.
It's a New Year, Johnny. It's Tamil New Year.
Well,
thanks, Robbie, for that.
Enjoy, and see you soon.
Bye, guys.
Good weekend, folks.